I was first introduced to the idea of Yiddish 78 RPM recordings when I attended my first class camp in 1987. I went, just knowing that I needed to play this music and not having a clue how to go about it. And what I learned there that very first year was that we had to look to these recordings, which were made in the first half or the first third even of the 20th century, because unlike other oral traditions where people can go back to an old country or, really find the old masters at whose feet they can sit, we'd lost several generations. We'd lost a generation or two to assimilation in the very early 20th century, and then we'd lost another generation and what came after it in the Holocaust. So there weren't people so many to learn from, and these recordings became the stand-ins for those missing generations. I had the idea back then, this kind of fantasy dream, that I would love to start a nonprofit, maybe call it, the National Yiddish Music Center or something, and get transfers, collect transfers of every extant Yiddish recording. At this point, I'm still finding things, but they tend to be the rarest of the rare. But just today I was looking through eBay before we got here, and there were 4 things that I hadn't come across before, and I put in bids on them. So, it's an ongoing thing, and I really believe that at this point I can come very close to accumulating for this collection pretty much what's extant. I have help now from a lot of dealers with whom I have relationships, and who will often offer me first crack at a big collection. And it's been a wonderful project, and I'm so delighted that I have the power, because I have the possession of these things, to bring them here where the library and I can partner in making them available to anyone who wants to learn from them. I don't think anybody can dispute the importance of accessibility to this material, or access to this material, because, as I mentioned before, these are our teachers. These are our old masters. And in terms of learning style, and I'm not just talking about instrumental style, but vocal style, arrangement style, humor, there's spoken word things in this collection. Everything about the language, the cadences of the language. In fact, when I was learning to play, I play the clarinet, and when I was learning myself, I spent a lot of time listening to Yiddish theater recordings. So if these things are going to be truly useful to the students and performers and researchers who we want to give access to, they need to be able to download them and take them home. Well, we're not there yet, but one of the things that I loved about partnering with the library here at the University of Wisconsin is that the people here seem to be very committed to pushing the envelope in terms of accessibility, and hopefully, we can work together to find some way where people can use these things usefully. Ideally, I would love to see it in a situation, and I don't know what the actual resources are here at the university, but to be able to have students be able to download these things so that they can take some form of it off on their iPods or other MP3 players or in their computers, and run them through software that will slow them down or enable them to loop or whatever it is that they need to do to learn from them. I've already talked to people here in the folklore and linguistics departments about the possibilities of some of the things like, there's a big collection within the collection, a sub-collection of humor, dialectic humor recordings, and some of which is mostly in Yiddish and some of which is mostly in English with Yiddish accents and everything in between, as a way of studying humor, which I know people are interested in. I think the other thing that I hope, if it's not too grandiose, is that this collection and what we do with it can be a model for other people doing ethnomusicology research and other cultural activities in terms of linguistics and theater and language and all the other things that I've mentioned. That I know that the library here has other 78s from the ethnic groups that were here in Wisconsin. And I've already talked to people about, using that and taking what we've done with these transfers and, finding donors of their own who could support that kind of work here as well. And we really hope to be a model of how these materials can be used and and all the interesting things that can be done with them as we go into the future.